Date was August 12th, 1980. I was only 3 years old. I had a brother who was 1 year old. My mother and father decided to take us out to the beach at Manhattan, Kansas. It was a beautiful day, and the beach in Manhattan may not be the kind of beaches you would envision. It was mainly gravel with some sand and dirt mixed in, and the water's kind of muddy, but it was the best we had, and wanted to enjoy the weather. So my family went out to the beach. My mother was enjoying her sunbathing. My father was wading about chest deep water with myself and my brother on an inflatable raft, just pushing us around. When all of a sudden, I fell off the raft. Now, being 3 years old, I couldn't swim. My father tried to find me, and because it was such low visibility, he was unable to find me. He yelled out for help. My mother, of course, panicked, and eventually the entire beach came rushing in to find this small child that had fallen in the water. What took probably less than 60 seconds, one of the strangers pulled me out of the water. Everything was okay medically, but a traumatic event had occurred. And I want to talk to you a little bit about your fears and how they take root in your consciousness. Now, for me, from this event, even though I remember absolutely nothing about it, I was far too young, I do know that after that it took several years of private one-on-one lessons, and ever since then I've always kind of had this fear of swimming. And so a famous psychiatrist and neurologist in the early 1900s was Sigmund Freud, and he kind of talked about this theory of your levels of consciousness. You have your conscious, which is what's going on around you, what you know, your preconscious, which is kind of your memories that you can access, and then you have your unconscious, which is this huge layer down here that kind of drives how you interact and perceive the world. And this is where your fears live. So your fears can get there a lot of different ways. One way is from a traumatic event, and those tend to be the most powerful types of fears that embed themselves. But they can also get there just through your life experiences, such as the fear of speaking, those type of things. Once you have a fear in your unconscious, you basically have two options. You can either choose to live with it, which I believe most people do. They may just say, I'm not good around water, I'm never going swimming again, or I'm not a good speaker, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Or your other option is to bring it out of your unconscious by facing it in your conscious world. So you face that situation, you make it routine, eventually you can remove the fear from your unconscious and it will no longer drive your being. Another danger about leaving things there is it can lead to mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression, addiction. So you really don't want those things to build up. So I always choose the latter, face my fears. So last weekend, I returned to the spot where we had the near drowning 33 years ago. This is the Tuttle Creek River Pond. I know it's probably hard to see, but I returned to race in a triathlon. And the very start of it was a 500-meter swim in the very water I'd almost drowned in 33 years ago. So it means leaving the beach, swimming out into the water around these orange buoys, and back to shore, and then the rest of the race. I was feeling pretty good about it. I had been practicing my swimming. I could run 500 meters. So I lined up. They were letting people out every few seconds. Somebody else would swim. I lined up and was ready to go. I was feeling really good. I was ready to have an intrepid swim. I got up to the front of the line. They said, go. I rushed to the water, dove in, and just took off. Everything's going really well. I'm feeling really good about it. The water's warm. I'm making about halfway to that first buoy when I notice a couple swimmers passing me. Thinking, that's okay. Maybe I'm just going a little bit too slow. So I begin to swim faster. Doesn't take long after that before I start getting really tired. I'm like, why am I getting so exhausted? But if you know much about swimming, if you swim too fast, you get tired very quickly. By the time I got to the first buoy, my front stroke was looking more like a side stroke. I was having difficulty moving in the water. At this point, it hits me. I'm out in open water, I can't touch the ground, and I'm swimming away from the shore, when every fiber of my being is telling me, you need to swim the other way. Another thought going through my mind was, well, if I swim the other way, my speech on Friday is not going to be very good. So on, I move past the first buoy. Towards the second buoy, I'm getting more and more tired to where I'm almost completely side-stroked. And then I notice there's a lifeguard at each of these buoys. I'm kind of floundering here, so I try to swim close to the lifeguard. I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe he'll see me floundering and they'll rescue me and get me out. Then I'll have a perfect excuse. But that doesn't happen. They just watch me go on by. So I make it from the second to the third and from the third to the fourth. By the end, I'm almost completely backstroke, just gliding through the water. But eventually, in 12 minutes, 45 seconds, I emerge from the water successfully. Completely exhausted. But I learned from this that no matter how horribly I swim, I can swim 500 meters in open water, and I overcame my fear of swimming. So that little part of my unconscious has dwindled. So what fears do you have in your life? Are you comfortable with living with them, or do you want to face them and remove them from your unconscious? And I would encourage you to do the latter.